Hello and welcome to all next-gen leaders. Welcome to Drive in Leadership Lane. Today, we're strapping in to discuss a book absolutely essential for navigating the speed and volatility of the modern professional world, Master of Change: How to Excel When Everything is Changing, including you by high-performance expert Brad Stulberg. I'm thrilled to dive into this work because, frankly, the old paradigms of stability and linear progress are dead. Stulberg, a renowned coach and author previously known for his work on sustainable high performance, gives us a necessary and powerful framework for thriving in a world defined by continuous disruption. Master of Change is not another self-help book focused on superficial coping mechanisms. Instead, it offers a deep, scientific, and philosophical exploration of change itself. Stulberg argues that our deep-seated resistance to change is the single biggest impediment to high performance, well-being, and growth. He reframes change not as an event to be managed, but as the fundamental state of existence, a natural, non-negotiable process. Stulberg distinguishes between two main types of change: Type 1 change, which are discrete, sudden events, a job loss, a pandemic, a major promotion; and Type 2 change, which is the slow, continuous, and often unacknowledged drift of life, the gradual change in a friendship, the evolution of a skill set, the erosion of work-life boundaries. Leaders must master both. Why is this book indispensable for leaders? In the Bonnie world, brittle, anxious, nonlinear, and incomprehensible, leaders must be the steady hand that guides their teams through constant flux. This book provides the conceptual tools to foster resilience, reduce team-wide burnout, and turn moments of instability into catalysts for organizational innovation and personal growth. The impact on a leader who follows these rules is profound. They stop reacting to crises and start deliberately leveraging them. They replace resistance with acceptance, and they shift their identity from being defined by external outcomes to being rooted in internal values, leading to sustained, powerful, and deeply grounded leadership. Stulberg's principles are elegantly distilled into 3 laws of change, which form the backbone of the book's actionable advice. The first law of change, the law of conservation. The law of conservation states that you cannot create or destroy change. You can only move it around. This is a direct parallel to the first law of thermodynamics. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. In the context of our inner lives, it means that emotional or psychological change, whether positive or negative, must be expressed or released. Otherwise, it will inevitably manifest elsewhere in an unhealthy or dysfunctional manner. We cannot simply stuff down a significant career pivot, a major failure, or deep uncertainty without paying a toll. Stulberg uses this law to stress the importance of healthy expression and processing. Suppressing the stress of a massive organizational restructuring, Type 1 change, doesn't make the stress disappear. It pushes it into other systems. The unacknowledged anxiety might surface as chronic back pain, sudden emotional outbursts at home, or, most commonly in the leadership context, total burnout and cynicism about the company's future. Example for leaders. Consider a senior leader who loses a critical deal, a major Type 1 change. If this leader doesn't acknowledge the disappointment, the grief, and the subsequent fear about their performance, they haven't destroyed the change. They've simply conserved it. This suppressed emotional energy might then be transferred into an area they can control, micromanaging their team's next, smaller project. The team experiences the leader's conserved anxiety as destructive control, leading to high turnover and decreased trust, all stemming from an unprocessed original event. The solution Stulberg suggests is to create space for genuine processing, be it through writing, talking to a coach, or physical activity, to let the energy out rather than letting it move around and pollute the environment. The law of conservation also applies to our identity. When an old identity dies, e.g., I am the successful young VP, the change energy must be released to make way for a new identity. I am a strategic mentor. If the leader hangs on too tightly to the old self, that conserved energy manifests as resistance to new roles, stifling both personal and organizational evolution. The second law of change, the law of interdependence. The law of interdependence tells us that all systems are interconnected. Change in one part of our lives or our organization inevitably sends ripples through all others. Stulberg emphasizes that human beings are integrated systems. Our physical, emotional, cognitive, and relational selves are not independent silos. Leaders often make the mistake of attempting to optimize one system, work output, at the expense of another, sleep/rest, only to discover that the sacrifice creates a deficit that undermines the very optimization they sought. This law directly addresses the challenge of type 2 change or drift. Leaders often let small, seemingly insignificant changes in one domain slowly degrade another. For instance, a leader might gradually allow a type 2 change, the slow creep of work emails late into the evening, to erode their sleep quality, the physical system. This erosion, however, quickly impacts the cognitive system, resulting in poor decision-making, decreased emotional regulation, and a lack of empathy in high-stakes meetings. Example for leaders. Imagine a sales leader driven by competitive urgency, the professional system. They consistently push organizational boundaries, demanding faster responses from the operations and finance teams. This constant urgency creep is a type 2 change in the professional system. Over time, this stress forces operations team members to neglect personal time, relational system, and consistently operate in a state of crisis, emotional system. The interdependence means that the initial drive for sales performance eventually degrades cross-functional trust, leading to internal silos, mistakes due to exhaustion, and ultimately, a breakdown in the very organizational harmony required for future success. The law of interdependence is the core argument for holism in leadership. Stulberg challenges the idea of work-life balance and replaces it with the concept of work-life integration, where the focus is not on separating the systems, but on maintaining the health of all systems so they can mutually support each other. For a leader, this means prioritizing foundational practices like consistent sleep, movement, and deep relational connections, not as luxuries, but as non-negotiable inputs for cognitive performance. The third law of change, the law of emergence. The law of emergence asserts that order arises from disorder. This is a recognition that change, especially significant type 1 change, often entails a necessary period of messiness, discomfort, and seeming regression, what Stulberg calls the messy middle or the liminal space, before a superior new structure or identity can emerge. We tend to demand immediate resolution, but true, profound change requires us to tolerate the discomfort of not knowing. Leaders must understand that this law applies equally to organizations and individuals. When a company undergoes a true digital transformation, the initial phase is chaotic. Old processes break before new ones are fully functional. People feel lost, and performance metrics might temporarily drop. This is the liminal space, the organizational chrysalis. A leader who fights the disorder will stifle the emergence of the new, often leading to a reversion to old, comfortable, and ultimately failing ways. Example for leaders. Consider a mid-career leader who is transitioning from being an individual contributor with deep technical expertise to being a manager of people. This is a massive type 1 identity change. Initially, the leader will feel awkward and less competent than they did when writing code or building models. They might see a temporary drop in measurable output because they're spending time on coaching, conflict resolution, and strategic alignment, tasks they're still learning. The law of emergence mandates that the leader must lean into the discomfort of this lower competence, trusting that the skills of effective delegation and team building will emerge from this messy practice. If they give in to the anxiety and revert to doing the technical work themselves, they can serve the change, Law 1, and fail to allow the new, necessary managerial identity to emerge, Law 3. Stulberg provides a crucial antidote to this liminal anxiety: process goals over outcome goals. During periods of change, our performance and well-being should not be measured by the external, unstable outcome, the successful result of the transformation, but by the consistent application of internal process, showing up daily, practicing the new managerial skill, honoring sleep. By tying identity to the process, a leader can calmly navigate the disordered, low-performance trough, knowing they are executing the steps necessary for the eventual emergence of order. Conclusion: driving in the new reality. To wrap up our discussion on Master of Change, Stulberg's final message for all next-gen leaders driving in the fast lane is one of acceptance and action. Change is not the enemy. It is the environment. True mastery lies not in preventing the waves, but in learning to surf them. By internalizing the law of conservation, releasing stress instead of stuffing it, the law of interdependence, tending to all systems holistically, and the law of emergence, embracing the messy middle, leaders can shift their perspective from viewing disruption as a threat to seeing it as the ultimate source of adaptive advantage. This book offers a blueprint for creating an inner architecture that is anti-fragile, allowing you and your team to grow stronger from volatility rather than breaking under it. Let me know if you'd like to dive deeper into any one of the 3 laws, or if you're ready to explore another influential leadership title. Thank you for joining me today on Drive in Leadership Lane. Safe travels, and keep leading the change.